Good afternoon and welcome to State Newsfile. I'm Angela Stewart. Jacob LeBlanc will have sports coming up, but first let's check in with Brianne Smith with the weather. Brianne, how are we doing out there?
It's not too bad. A few clouds in the sky and a little bit of wind, but nothing at all to complain about. Currently in Calgary, it's -1. The high today was 3. Last year, the high was 1 degree. The record high in 1905 was 18.9 degrees. It's crazy to compare that to the record low in 1888, which was a chilly -33.9. So looking forward to giving you the rest of the weather later on.
Jacob, anything interesting in the sports world?
Well, we do have a lot of Trojans actions coming up. We've got a basketball playoff for the Trojans and some men's and women's ice hockey coming up as well, and I'll have more of that later.
Well, we look forward to that. Now let's take a look at today's top stories. It's a brand new year and a brand new session of Alberta's legislature. Lieutenant Governor Lois Mitchell addressed the public with the annual speech from the throne this afternoon with promises to enrich the lives of Albertans during this economic hardship. Newsfile's Chelsea Thomasek is live at the McDougall Center with more. Chelsea, what does this NDP government have in store for the province?
Well, Mitchell began this year's speech reminding the province of the importance of diversity and the common goal. This year, the NDP's focus is to better the lives of the everyday Albertans, beginning with the fundamentals. The province wasted no time getting into the anticipated topics. When it comes to the Great Pipeline debate, the government believes in the importance of oil and gas in Alberta, but suggests we are too dependent on the resource. The government says it's committed to erasing doubts when it came to Alberta's environmental reputation. In order to accomplish this, Premier Rachel Notley says she will be working closely with the energy industry, environmentalists, and the Indigenous community.
Chelsea, what else was mentioned today?
The government also says it will be working towards creating jobs, building hospitals, capping electricity rates, schools and highways, and modernizing hospitals. And will work on strengthening Alberta's trade relationships. Economist Todd Hirsch says he believes additional trade markets should be established on a global scale, something the province seems to be behind in as well.
I think it's really important that Canada try to diversify our global trade markets. Europe, a fantastic market. The next one I would like to see is a free trade agreement with Japan. We already have one with South Korea, and better trade enhancement with China. I think all of these things is what Canada needs to be doing.
The government says its ministers will be going on more trade missions this year to key markets like Japan, India, and China.
Chelsea Thomasek reporting from the McDougall Center. The new sessions of the legislature begin tomorrow. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made his 6th trip to Calgary last night since taking office. He was showing his support for Liberal candidates Haley Brown and Scott Forsyth in a rally for the April 3rd by-elections. As Kristen Fong reports, the Liberal Party is trying to change how Albertans vote.
And Mindapore by-elections coming up, the Conservative Party is hoping to defend its titles, but it's coming up against some stiff opposition from the Liberals. The Liberal Party is looking to take the 2 by-elections, even though it doesn't necessarily mean a shift in power, but it does make a statement. Justin Trudeau says the Conservatives have taken advantage of Albertans, specifically Calgary, and it's time for that to stop.
I think one of the things that previous elections have shown is you cannot no party can take its support for granted anywhere. And we are showing with an amazing team of volunteers how hard we're willing to work hard to deliver strong voices for every community to Ottawa.
The rally brought in many Liberal supporters, and Justin Trudeau celebrated Haley Brown and Scott Forsyth's communication with their communities. They are hopeful the new candidates will bring in more change.
For their background, educational background, I think they are a good figure in their community, and I wish them all the luck.
Alberta matters!
Much of the rally focused on the fact that pipelines and sustainable economy is what Alberta needs, but the environment cannot be forgotten. Justin Trudeau says even though the Conservatives say they are on Alberta's side, it's the Liberal government that got the pipelines approved with the necessary regulations. The Liberal government was critical of the Conservatives and how they manage the middle class and economic growth in Alberta.
And in a year and a half, we were able to do what Stephen Harper was unable to do in 10 years. That is, get pipelines approved by showing true leadership on the environment. That's what Albertans need.
Supporters of the Prime Minister say Trudeau is making the right moves for Albertans.
I'm sure we'll double or triple our vote, but it depends. I think Trudeau has been very good for the oil business, and the oil business is very much a part of Calgary. So putting those two together, they might do it.
For State Newsfile, I'm Kristen Fong.
More than 150 businesses, city councillors, and the Calgary community gathered in the city's downtown this afternoon for an economic summit. A report and plan of action was presented to the council today in the second quarter of this year. The biggest concern heading into the summit was the rising office vacancy rates. This has made city officials worried because downtown businesses do account for 40% of non-residential revenue. The summit did recognize short, medium, and long-term opportunities to strengthen the downtown.
Of course, the biggest concern is they don't have as many customers right now. So we've lost about 30,000 people in the downtown, and from layoffs and so forth, and those people are not necessarily shopping or going out for lunch. And that's really been a heavy impact on a lot of the smaller businesses as well as some of the larger ones.
This is not the first time the city has faced this type of downturn. Vehicle thefts are on the rise again, with the latest one earlier this week. Personal information and equipment used to create keys were inside of a vehicle that was stolen belonging to a Calgary Housing Company contractor. The Calgary Housing Company said the keys could possibly be for some of the housing units. The car has been recovered and no tenant names or personal information was taken. Steps have been made to notify all tenants, including an extra security on the properties and rekeying the units that have been affected.
If the person who stole this equipment knew how to use it and put the equipment together with the information and knew how to put all that together, there is a potential that they can access some units.
An investigation has been put into motion and steps have also been taken to reduce the potential for similar incidents in the future. Changes to the Green Line LRT plans are upsetting residents in Ramsey. Residents have agreed with the changes and how it would affect the communities in the fall, but those living in Ramsey think the new route from recent planners could make connections to surrounding communities more difficult. They're also concerned about their homes becoming train front property. A meeting took place today for residents to meet with planner in Ramsey to voice their concerns, and plans have been put on hold until they come to a conclusion.
So there's really two challenges here. Number one, the relationship with the city and the city shaping work of the planning department following the transportation has to improve, and we've taken an extra year and a half to do that.
The city plans to have the Green Line sorted by the end of the year 2018, so they can get it right. Air pollution has become a growing problem in Alberta, and with the recent carbon tax, much is being done to cut back on Alberta's emissions. At the University of Calgary, 2 researchers are looking for solutions to better air equality. Kellyanne Roberts reports.
Alberta is working to clean up its air. 2 researchers at the University of Calgary have received a grant of just under $137,000 from the Canada Foundation for Innovation to identify different sources of industrial air pollution right here in Alberta, as well as develop special instruments to monitor it.
We are collecting particles and also aerosol samples in Calgary and Fort McMurray. So the results can be transferred.
Dr. Cadu and Dr. Simon Park will start their work by identifying the key sources of pollution by collecting samples and analyzing them. The chemical components of the samples will give information on where the pollutants are coming from. The research being done here by mechanical and manufacturing engineers will help determine what are Alberta's biggest pollutants. The research comes after Alberta legislation implemented a carbon tax in January, a key cornerstone of the Climate Leadership Implementation Act.
This research can help the government to pinpoint the major sources to cut, and also how to cut and when to cut. So that's the results of research will be the key input to for the Alberta to reduce the emission.
it is extremely difficult for regulators and the energy industry to determine which source of pollution to cut, how much and how best to achieve emission reductions without this research. While Dew and Park are busy working on the larger scale, there are things we can do at home to help reduce Alberta's emissions, like taking public transportation. For State Newsfile, I'm Kellyanne Roberts.
As new generations enter the classroom, their cell phones tend to enter with them. Teachers are trying to figure out ways to incorporate the use of technology in the classroom. For some students, their mobile device is a tool, while others it is a distraction. And if you don't know how to manage how much you use your phone in class, your grades could suffer. Some teachers are on board with the use of phones in class, while others are struggling to find a way to effectively manage the technology tide. As technology grows, it has become more common to see the students with their phones in class, a possible tool for many teachers to use.
I think it's just like to make sure you tell them the rules and the limitations in the first week of class, but I mean, we need to understand we're coming from different generations.
The newest generation of students were born into a technology advanced era where Google and the use of technology is at their fingertips. Alcohol, drugs, and gambling are all addictions we hear about often. But there's another preventable addiction thousands of men and women struggle with every day. As Megan Brennan reports, it is an addiction to video games.
So growing up, I was a fairly normal Canadian kid. I played hockey, I went to school, and then I'd go home and play video games. That was all good until the 8th grade when I started to be bullied. Bullying caused me to want to escape from life, and escaping from life meant playing video games.
Although it isn't recognized by all medical associations as a diagnosed disorder, video game addiction is very real. According to the University of New Mexico, recent studies suggest that 6 to 15% of all gamers exhibit signs that could be characterized as addiction. Just like other addictions, it comes with warning signs, like feeling restless when not playing, isolating from others in order to spend more time gaming, and many more.
Video game addiction is described as an impulse control disorder which does not involve the use of an intoxicating drug. But what is it about video games that make them so addicting?
I guess you could say I like to play video games, and especially sports video games because it allows you to almost immerse yourself and be these players you idolize from a young age and play with them, and basically one day your dream of becoming a professional athlete, you can make it into a video game.
Your brain loves gaming because gaming provides rapid dopamine release. Dopamine is a chemical in your brain that makes you feel happy. The more you game, the more your brain wants to game. The dopamine being released is what becomes addictive. Cam Adair suffered from game addiction for over 10 years and is now the founder of Game Quitters, an online support that is helping more than 20,000 people from 76 different countries across the world.
I don't believe that gaming is good or bad, and the conversation around that needs to change. It's our own subjective truth about how is this behavior affecting us. So technology is central to all of our lives. In college, over 70% of students are gaming or using technology.
This explains why when you play games, the type of stimulation you receive is much different than what you may experience during other activities. For State Newsfile, I'm Megan Brennan.
Those are today's top stories. We'll have your full forecast for you right after the break. But first, Brianne Smith has a look at what's going on around Calgary this week.
Reimagine urban life with Mark Lakeman as he turns the environment into a more inclusive, accessible, and unified space tonight at 6 p.m. right here at State. A perfect way to end the work week is celebrating a new season of exhibitions at the Glenbow Museum. If dancing is more your thing, the Calgary BKS is hosting a night of fun where you'll learn the bachata, kazamba, and move your hips to the salsa. Jim Jeffries will have you laughing with his comedic ability to both charm and offend the crowd. Get your tickets at calgarytheater.com. Take a blast into the past with the Calgary Maple Festival at Heritage Park. There will be French Canadian, Métis, and Aboriginal music and dance. The entire family can take part in some outdoor games and much more. Enjoy a classic silent film accompanied with live music to finish the weekend off. After the film, try your hand at playing some of the many instruments you'll hear.
Hello?
What do you mean? You can't foreclose on us.
No one is ready for bad news, but the Calgary Urban Project Society can help pick you up. CUPS Calgary.
Light, something we take for granted every day. Today, over 1 billion people don't have access to electricity. They rely on candles or kerosene for light. Kerosene produces black toxic smoke, resulting in 2 million deaths annually. At Light Up the World, we want to eliminate dependency on fuel lighting by bringing renewable energy to remote regions. We improve economic growth, education, and health. Visit lutw.org to see how you can help light up the world for a brighter future.
It's been a pretty brisk day in Calgary today, a lot better than the temperatures we were seeing earlier this week. Let's take a look at the west map. In Vancouver, we're seeing a low pressure system. They're getting some rain right now, but in Edmonton, we're seeing the seasonal temperatures highs that we normally see for this time of year. In Regina, it's -7 degrees, a little bit of cloud in there with that sun, and in Winnipeg, it's -16 degrees. So it's definitely chilly there. In Toronto, there's clouds, it's -3, and clouds right across the board as we head into the Maritimes. It's 5 in Halifax, clouds there, and in St. John's, they will be experiencing a low pressure system later on. So those clouds are gonna turn into rain, but it isn't raining in the resorts. Let's take a look at what the resorts are right now. There's some beautiful weather right across the board. Palm Springs is 26 and sunny. Both Barbados and Cancun are right under 30 degrees. It's 27 and raining in Honolulu. If you're headed to Disney World, it's a mix of sun and cloud. It's 27. In Viva Las Vegas, it's 21 and sunny. Currently in Calgary, it's -1 degree. It's mostly cloudy out there, not really too many blue spots poking in. It's 16 kilometers an hour wind coming from the south, which is making that -1 feel a lot colder. The wind chill is -6 degrees. As we look into tonight, we're going to drop down to -4, where the clouds are going to stay. In Alberta, Fort McMurray and Grand Prairie are both at -10 degrees right now. As we head into central Alberta, Edmonton is what we're seeing for this time of year as our seasonal average high. In Calgary, it's -2 degrees. And as we head lower into the south, Medicine Hat and Lethbridge are both in the positives, which is great. They are seeing a little bit of clouds, and those are going to stay around, especially with the wind too. It is 1 in Medicine Hat and 2 in Lethbridge. In Banff, it's 2 degrees right now. I'll have a little bit more of your snow report coming up, but first let's take a look at our 5-day forecast. This weekend, it's going to be snowy and a high of -6. Let's take a look at our snow report. The conditions at Sunshine are great for beginners. There's lots of powder. All the lifts are open and all but 10 trails are available to shred. The conditions are variable further north at Lake Louise. The base is 123 centimeters. All the lifts are open and almost all the trails are as well. It could be a bit icy in Norquay. The base and summit are only 78 centimeters. The conditions are variable. It's cloudy and -7. The powder is packed in Panorama. The base is 82 centimeters. It's -2 degrees with a southwest wind, only 1 lift is closed, and 118 trails are open. There's fresh powder at Big White. It's currently snowing, so tomorrow there will be 12 centimeters of fresh powder to enjoy. All the trails are open. There's 218 centimeters on the summit. There's packed powder in beautiful Whistler. It's 2 degrees with 254 centimeters at the base.
2.
So Jacob, there was a bit of an update for the Trojans men's basketball team.
Yeah, Angela, the men's basketball team for the State Trojans beat Lakeland College 86-74, so they will advance. I'll have more basketball and other great sports coming up. Both Trojan hockey teams are in the ACC playoffs right now. The men will begin their journey this weekend against Concordia University, while the women are shooting for the championship against the McEwen Griffins. Newsfile's Matt Fatinko is live in State's newsroom with a preview of what we can expect. Matt, how is this weekend shaping up?
Well, Jacob, the men are just getting started, but the women are shooting for the championship, like you said. The women are the underdog heading into their matchup against the Grant MacEwan University Griffins, while the men have looked upon as the favorite to win it all. The women looked down and out after starting their season 1-9, but came back strong, finishing 12-14, good enough for 4th place. The men, on the other hand, have been solid all year, closing the season with a 19-9 record and finishing 3rd.
Matt, which Trojan should we keep an eye on?
On the women's side, it's Emma Greenwood. Goaltending's always important, especially in the finals. And on the men's side, I'm looking at Dean Allison. The guy's a natural-born leader, and he'll be looked upon to come up big in the playoffs.
Matt Fatinko reporting live from SAIT's newsroom. It's not just the ice sports who are in the playoffs. The men and women's basketball teams are looking to take the championship home for SAIT. The women's basketball team will be taking on Concordia University Thunder in Lethbridge tonight at 6. The SAIT Trojans track and field team is off to the ACAC Conference Championship this weekend. Determination is the mood of the team's final practice before Friday's road trip to Lethbridge. While several track events are competed solo, the aspect of a team is extremely important in each event. Both the men and women were unable to land a first-place finish in their meet, but they hope the loss pushes them all the way over to the top this weekend.
We've had a few meets. They've actually had 4 opportunities to race throughout the season, so that's been great. And kind of what we're hoping is those are all kind of practice runs, and now we're up to the big event, and they'll just knock it out of the park.
The Trojans will race in the ACAC Championship at noon on both Friday and Saturday this weekend. Our Calgary Flames have been on a roll lately. The boys gathered 21 points in a dozen games last month, which has put them in a playoff wildcard spot. Just before the NHL trade deadline yesterday, the Calgary Flames made a deal. Katie Bain stopped by today's practice to see how the team is feeling.
I'm all about the smile and having fun, and when I do that, I'll be a good player.
The Flames signed forward Curtis Lazar and defenseman Mike Koska from the Ottawa Senators. With the Flames holding on to the first-place wildcard spot, Lazar and Koska are jumping right into the thick of things and hoping it makes an impact.
But it sends a clear message that our organization believes we can win with this group, and as players we get that message.
Lazar was a first-round draft pick in 2013 and was the captain of the gold medal junior Team Canada crew in 2015. He's been struggling in Ottawa this season. On paper, Lazar seems to have it all, and he's hoping he can translate it to the ice.
I'm very motivated, if you can put it that way. I mean, I got a lot to prove, and there's no doubt I'm going to do it. And I think the key word for myself is just the confidence. That's kind of the area that I've lost a little bit, and that swagger that's, I need to be successful on the ice. And, being here, it's a fresh start for myself.
With a personality like Lazar's, hopefully his charisma will translate to the other boys.
Most of all, it's just getting energy for the team, as I always refer to as youthful enthusiasm. And even here, I'm not the youngest guy anymore, so that's nice. But you just take it in stride and try and help out where needed.
The Flames acquired Michael Stone 10 days ago, and he's already making a huge impact. They're hoping the trade deadline deals do the same. The new lineup has seen the boys win 5 games in a row. One of these wins includes the critical overtime win against the LA Kings on Tuesday. For SAIT Newsfile, I'm Katie Baines.
It was a quiet night last night in the NHL with only 2 games on schedule. Patrick Kane recorded his 4th career regular season hat trick, while goalie Scott Darling made 38 saves in the win. Victor Hedman scored 2, including the overtime winner, as Tampa Bay has been on a tear lately, going 7-2-1 in their last 10. From 2 games last night to 10 tonight, it will be a busy one in the NHL, including some Canadian teams. The Montreal Canadiens will be taking on PK Subban and the Predators. This will be Subban's first game back in Montreal since he was traded. The Vancouver Canucks will head down to San Jose to take on Joe Thornton and the San Jose Sharks. And Toronto will get the Hollywood treatment tonight when they take on Jarome Iginla and the Kings. So overall, not really a busy day in sports, Angela.
For some, working out can be a personal nightmare, but that doesn't stop some students looking for the next best thing to sweat out all that stress eating they did over exam break. After the break, we have a look at a fun new way to appeal to the both socialite and the gym enthusiasts looking to stay in shape.
Calgary Police respond to 2 calls every hour of every day related to domestic violence.
Homefront, a nonprofit organization, works to ensure that victims have the support, information, and resources they need to break the cycle of abuse and live positive and healthy futures.
It takes a community to end domestic violence. Visit homefrontcalgary.com and help our city.
The Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society has been protecting more than 1 million square kilometers of Canadian wilderness for over 50 years. The Southern Alberta chapter has been at the forefront of this movement from the beginning, partnering with local communities, organizations, different levels of government, and individuals much like yourself. We're always looking for more support. Help us help Canada by donating, fundraising, or volunteering today.
Whether we like to admit it or not, going to the gym is often a student's personal nightmare. But what if we told you you could have fun and socialize all while sweating it out? MMA could very well be the solution to earning a few games, having fun, and maintaining a social presence.
I've been doing mixed martial arts now for 19 years. I'm the very first one to ever do professional or amateur fighting here in Western Canada. The first one to ever open an MMA studio in Canada. Well, I loved watching it when we first started seeing the UFC come out. You know, we saw, first time we ever saw boxer versus wrestler, sumo fighter versus kickboxer. I've been in martial arts my entire life, into it like most people, simply because I got bullied at a young age and stuff, and I wanted to learn how to fight and protect myself. And then from there, you know, UFC came about, and then we became obsessed ever since.
I've been doing mixed martial arts ever since I was wearing diapers, ever since I could remember. My dad would always bring me to the gym.
It's a fantastic way to stay healthy, active, and not everybody wants to do yoga or do spin class. You know, I'm more of a alpha male type dude. I've always been. So this is a great way for me to get my recreation and also find my my anger management.
I like meeting new people and seeing like the strengths and like the different personalities of people. I like seeing how people like fight and use strategies to do, you know, certain things.
We did a little bit of noodle work, a little bit of work on the hands, reaction, movement, timing, distance, a little bit of grappling, a little bit of jiu-jitsu.
I like that you get to learn different types of, you know, wrestling and stuff. Not just one thing, because you never know. It might come in handy.
I would like to continue. It's been a part of my life for a very long time, and I can't imagine like that.
Fun plans for the weekend?
Well, with the snow coming up, I might actually go hit the slopes, see if I can get one more ski in before the season's over for sure.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Maybe a winter hike, snowshoeing, that kind of thing. What about yourself?
Not too much. I'm not much of a skier, so probably just stay in, have some popcorn.
Awesome.
From myself, Bree, and Jacob, thank you for joining us.